Hello everybody, welcome to today's battle report, which is a 4,500 point game between myself and Silas. It's my fourth outing with High Born Elves and his first time with Vampire Covenant, so let's get into deployment. Okay then, so we picked a map at random. We got battle number 3, which was counter thrust. Silas got to choose side, so he went for the bottom, so I got to choose who deployed first, and I deployed first, thinking I wanted to get the first turn really. So we sort of traded off one unit, and then on my fourth drop I placed my whole army with the intention of going first, which gave me a +3, so I did go first in the end. The two horses are the markers for secondary objective 6, I think it's called secure resources or something like that. You need to get scoring units within 6 inches of these by the end of the game to secure the secondary objective, so there you go. That's the battlefield setup. I'll just talk you through the armies then. Start on Silas's side, so down here on the far left we've got a Shrieking Horror, then a unit of zombies, big unit of ghouls with a vampire courtier here, a big unit of barrow guard with a necromancer and a barrow king in here, another unit of ghouls with another courtier. This one in the middle-ish is the BSB, by the way. The necromancer is the general, and at the far side a pair of banshee characters that have been put together as a combined unit. On my side, starting top left, I've got a unit of reavers, then I've got a commander on a young dragon, unit of 25 swordsmasters, then my mage who's a wizard master on alchemy on a young dragon, unit of 15 sea guard, 18 queen's guard, my commander here on a griffin, this is my BSB, unit of 29 citizen spears, another commander on a griffin, and 5 reavers. So that makes deployment. Okay, so into Vanguard then. Silas doesn't have any Vanguards or Scouts or anything like that. I've just got a pair of Vanguards, which are my 2 reavers. Now, I'm thinking I'm going to run this unit of reavers up here and just start to be a nuisance with them on this guy here. I want to get some shots in him. And because I deployed first, Silas has managed to get him quite rightly well away from my archers. So I'm just going to start to try and chip away at him here. And then with these reavers on the side here, I figure there's not really any space here. There's not a way through. So what I'm thinking to do, I know I'm very likely to go first. So I've kind of brought them up here, and I'm planning to head diagonally kind of along the battlefield here. If I can bait Silas into wasting some charges, that's to the good. I don't think I will though, and then maybe just kind of team up over here with these and be a nuisance later on is the best I'm kind of hoping for right now at that stage. So there you go, that's Vanguards. Okay, so I did get the first turn, and this is my movement phase. And my first thought when I'm looking at this army is I don't know where I'm going to take the points from. These ghouls are a big block of poison, so that presents problems for all my characters. The Barrow Guard have all got lethal strike, so that presents a problem as well. There's a pair of Banshees here, but they've got a 3+ Aegis against non-magical attacks, and unless I'm casting spells, I don't have very many magical attacks. So I'm kind of looking at this army and thinking, where am I going to chip points away from it? So what I've done then is I'm kind of heading in this direction with my commander here, looking to sort of head this guy off. I've positioned it there so that Silas, I'm hoping, can't get out of his range. I'm trying to bait him into coming forwards and screaming at me. And then I've moved up my swordsmasters here. Now, I'm thinking straight away, I don't know where I'm going to take the points off this army. I expect to lose the point game, so I must win the secondary objective game. So what I'm planning to do is to walk through these zombies here. The swordsmasters will make very short work of these, so I expect to control this side of the board as long as this guy here can take care of the Shrieking Horror. So what I'm hoping to do is come through here, smash through these zombies, and then head sideways, and then have my Sea Guard, who've moved up this turn but are going to be wheeling this way, come around here and claim the secondary objective because they're a scoring unit. So that's the kind of game plan on this side of the board. Over here I'm really struggling. I'm not sure where to drop my characters. I've dropped this one, my general here, out of the arc of vision of the Barrow Guard because the Necromancer has Silver Spike. So if Silas wants to turn and face him, then he's not going to be moving his unit up towards the secondary objective, so that's why he's there. But the two Griffins here have not really got anywhere to go at. If I move them forwards here, then they're likely to get charged, and I don't want them fleeing off down here, so they've kind of moved into the middle. They're not in the way of anything because the spears are actually staying still, and I'm trying to use the terrain here. I know that Silas can't come round here, so he has to engage me in the front, which is the ideal scenario for my spearmen. So I'm trying to sort of anchor around there, really. And then the Reavers have just moved in that direction as previously discussed, going to pop off a few shots before they carry on heading over this way. So there you go. That's that. That's my movement 1. It took me a very long time to place them like that. It was like playing chess at one point. Okay, so this is the end of my turn 1, and for all the sort of tiptoeing and dancing around, very little happened really. I got Favour of Maladies off on the magic phase, and all my characters are within 18 of my general, so I'm thinking if Silas does sort of throw a silver spike at me, then that'll come in handy. My Sea Guard took a wound off the ghouls, terrifying, I know. And my Queen's Guard, I left the counters on here, sorry about that. My Queen's Guard did 4 wounds on the Barrow Guard here. And that was the end of my turn 1. The end of Silas's turn 1 here then. His movement 1 was much faster than mine. He basically dropped his Shrieking Horror behind my Reavers. And then he sort of shuffled with his zombies a little bit, not sure why, but that's what he did. And he has sort of shuffled around here a little bit with his ghouls and Barrow Guard. I think the main thing he's done is dash up the extreme flank here with his Banshees. I'm actually quite happy about this. He doesn't seem to be heading towards a secondary objective. Now, I mean, he's still got plenty of time, but I don't particularly want to engage any of these units. They're quite scary, so I'm perfectly happy for him to stand still, to be honest. So there you go. That's the end of Silas's movement 1. Okay, so this is the end of Silas's turn 1. The main event was that the Shrieking Horror screamed at my Reavers, killed 3, and the other 2 panicked and ran off. Of course, they hadn't done any wounds to it in the previous turn. The shooting was terrible, so it got a full 6 shots at them. And other than that, Silas raised 8 skeletons in the middle here, so that was that. That's the end of Silas's turn 1. So this is the end of my movement 2 then. The biggest event is that the Swords Masters got into these zombies here. I sort of charged and wheeled and then couldn't close the door completely because of this impassable terrain here. So Silas had to close on me. That's the way we understood it anyway. I'm not sure if we got that right, to be honest, but I don't think it matters that much because Swords Masters are going to rip through zombies in any event, really. So the commander on Dragon is now facing the Shrieking Horror, and the Shrieking Horror can't get out of his charge range because of the position. It would be a long charge, but he can't get out, and he can't declare a charge himself because he's not facing me. So I'm fairly happy over here, although the Shrieking Horror is really hard to catch. I'm going to get 1 long charge on it, and if I miss it, I'm pretty screwed, really. But there you go. There's not a lot I can do about that. The Reavers, having seen what the Shrieking Horror did to the other group of Reavers, I thought, you know what, I'm not sending them over there to die in the same way, so I've just swung them around the back here, and I'm just going to sort of be a nuisance and march block if I can, and that kind of thing. I thought to myself, I'm dilly-dallying a little bit really here, but I think I've surrendered control of this flank and I don't want to, so I've brought my two commanders on their griffins back round here. I'm thinking, you know what, I'm not scared of a couple of banshees. I'm going to try and sort of maneuver them into a charge and see if I can take them out really. So that's why I'm sort of trying to pencil them in with these two guys here. The Sea Guard are moving around the back here, just heading off in that direction now. And the Spears and the Queen's Guard are staying where they are. So that's the end of my movement 2. My turn 2 here then, not a particularly effective one either. In the magic phase I only managed to get Favour of Melodies off on my general. So I've picked up a Veil token, and that's going to protect him and the two guys closest to him from any silver spikes. Well, it's going to reduce the damage of any silver spikes or anything like that. The Reavers and the Queen's Guard between them did 6 wounds on the Barrow Guard, so I'm starting to whittle away the Barrow Guard over here, and that was it. Oh, of course, the Swordsmasters ripped through the zombies and reformed as you would expect. So that's going fairly well down this side at the moment. So there you go. That's the end of my 2. Okay, so on to Silas's turn 2 movement here then, and you can see that the Shrieking Horror has decided to go for broke. He's dropped himself in front of my commander on Dragon. He's going to try and scream at me enough that he can do enough damage to me, and then when I charge him, he'll have less work to do. So there's a standoff here. Somebody is going to die over here. Just a matter of finding out who, really. And then he's moved his Banshees across here, facing my commander. He's found a little gap there, so that's frustrating. He's brought his Ghouls and his Vampire up along the side here, so I think he's coming for their secondary objective here. But these two units have sort of still mulling around in the back here. I presume that he's holding these Barrow Guard back because he's expecting the Swordsmasters to come through here, so I guess that he's kind of keeping them sort of in reserve for those, but perhaps he forgot to turn to face them, I'm not sure. Anyway, that's the end of Silas's movement 2. Okay, so end of Silas's turn 2 here then. And he had quite a good magic phase. I was feeling slightly aggrieved because I got card 1 for my first turn, for my second turn, and he got card 8, so opposite ends of the spectrum, but I suppose that's just how it goes, isn't it? So he brought back 6 Barrow Guard, so undoing all the damage I'd caused in the previous turn, and he raised 8 more Ghouls as well. He also got the Dead Arise on a bunch of skeletons here in the bottom corner. Then the Banshees did a couple of wounds on my Griffin commander, and the Shrieking Horror did 3 wounds on my Young Dragon commander. I took the photograph and then I realised that I needed to use my Favour of Melodies to reduce this by 1, so this 3 is actually 2. So that's that. That's the end of Silas's turn 2. Okay, so on to my movement 3 here then. So my commander has got in on the charge with the Shrieking Horror over here, and I'm down here. I'm kind of starting to think, right, I've got to take points from somewhere here. I don't want to engage either of these giant poison blocks, so they're really bad news for my characters because they're ignoring all my resilience, more or less. So I'm thinking, I'm prioritizing the Barrow Guard, and what I'm looking to do here is block this unit of Ghouls with my Reavers, so the Ghouls can't charge my my commander here. If the Vampire Courtier wants to do a charge out and a one-on-one with my commander and Griffin, I'm happy to welcome that. So yeah, that's what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to ambush this unit here with my Griffin commander and my my mage on dragon. So I'm looking for a two-pronged assault on that, really. Other than that, my commander doesn't want to hang around to get screamed at again because he's only got 4 wounds and he's lost 2 of them. So I've dropped him on the other side of the house, knowing that the Banshees can't land here. There isn't a space for them. They can go through the house because they're ghostly, but they can't stop here. So if they want to shriek at him, they're going to have to come round this way, and then they're going to get pin cushioned. Even with their 3+ Aegis, 18 shots hitting on 3s and wounding on 3s or 4s is going to do quite a bit of damage to them. The Swordsmasters are heading as planned into the centre here, and the Sea Guard are continuing their trek around this big rock to secure the secondary objective. And then the mage has blocked himself down here so he can cast spells, but he's prepping for a charge over here. So that's the end of my movement 3. Okay, so this is the end of my turn 3 then. I got Molten Copper off, did a few wounds to the Barrow Guard, nothing particularly big. And then in the shooting phase, the Reavers killed a skeleton, big deal. And the Queen's Guard, with nothing else to shoot at, because they're prepping for the Banshees, so they just took out the majority of these skeletons here. But the real story of this phase, and it was very disappointing, was the way that the commander ran in. He's hitting the Shrieking Horror on 2s. With his lance, he's wounding on 4s, 0 wounds. The Griffin's going in. The Griffin is hitting it on 3s and then wounding on 5s, 0 wounds. And then sorry, not the Griffin, the Dragon. And then the Dragon is breath weaponing 2d6, so somewhere between 6 and 8 most likely. I'm thinking that's going to cause a wound. So I did the maths, should have got 3 wounds and a charge for 4, which would have meant that the Horror had 3 attacks back. I'd have taken 1, law of averages. Anyway, so the Commander and the Dragon went in and did absolutely 0. Which meant that the Shrieking Horror had all 6 of its attacks and the Commander promptly died. So I was pretty annoyed about that because that shouldn't have happened. I mean, the dice might go against you a bit, and you know, the Shrieking Horror might have survived with a wound or 2, but yeah, I was pretty disappointed with that, really. So there you go. That's the end of my 3. We're into Silas's movement 3 here then. And you can see that his ghouls have charged into the Reavers here, and the skeletons have kind of come through, and he's trying to kind of spring the trap here a little bit, and it's quite a good idea. I hadn't actually seen this. He's charged with his ghouls, which has then enabled the skeletons to charge, and if the skeletons can get an 8, they can overrun into the Swordsmasters, which, you know, I mean, if 1 survived, I don't know, maybe seems unlikely, I suppose, but you never know. It might be able to sort of use them as a road bump and yeah, see it. I don't know. Anyway, that's the kind of main event. The ghouls have sort of swung around here now, heading towards the Swordsmasters in the middle, and the Shrieking, the Banshees rather, have decided not to go for getting pin-cushioned by the Queen's Guard, and have sort of swooped around here on the corner of this building. The Shrieking Horror, who is, you know, now alive, of course, now has a nice easy shot on my mage, so he's plonked himself there for a scream there. So that's the end of Silas's 3. Okay, so Silas is turn 3 here then. He's managed to get a rise off in the magic phase, and has brought back a bunch of ghouls and Barrow Guard. In his shooting phase, he only did a single wound on the general because of the general's 4-up 4 ward save, so that was a relief really. The Reavers predictably were smashed and ran, but they weren't caught, and that the skeletons have gone 7, and an 8 would have brought them into the Swords Masters, so they might be in a bit of trouble now. Well, this unit might be in a bit of trouble because I can sort of bunny hop through here really. So there you go. Silas decided to reform with his ghouls here, and when he came to plop a new unit down to sort of replace the messy old one, they came in a different colour, so they've had a bit of a costume change. But let's not worry about that too much. So yeah, that was the end of Silas's 3. Okay, so this is my movement 4 then, and the Swords Masters have charged the unit of skeletons. Now, at the time of the charge, the Reavers were facing a different direction, and this corner just here was in the way, so I wheeled to close on the skeletons as far as I could, and then the skeletons had to close what I couldn't, and that's going to mean that I'm overrunning in this direction when I smash through these guys. So that's potentially very, very good. In his movement phase, Silas had actually shuffled this unit sideways, which had meant that the Griffin commander could just see this end guy, which meant that he could charge the unit. So it was a bit of a long charge on, well, I say long, I mean I needed a swift striding 8 on my mage general here. So a swift striding 8 there and a swift striding 4 on my Griffin commander. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go for this. Plopped my Griffin, promptly made it, but my general failed a swift striding 8, and so he's going to open himself up to another turn of shooting now. So that was a bit frustrating. Seaguard are standing still. I'm not drawing attention to them really. They're securing that secondary objective, so I'm just kind of leaving them where they are for now. As I said, the Reavers have rallied. I've moved the Griffin commander further over here now. This is about points denial really, just keeping him out of harm's way. And the Queen's Guard have done a swift reform to be facing some sort of meaningful direction really. So that's the end of my movement 4. Okay, so this is the end of my turn 4 then. My Queen's Guard, actually, I forgot to mention, failed a swift reform, so they couldn't shoot. But anyway, in the magic phase, seeing my commander going in this unit alone, he needs quite a bit of buffing, so I've got Glory of Gold on him, which means that he has flaming attacks, and the aspect gives the Barrow Guard flammable, so he's re-rolling to wound, so I'm trying to get the maximum kind of juice out of him, really. I've also done a couple of wounds on the ghouls somewhere. Not sure where I've got it written down here, but I did a couple. Oh, because I hadn't overran, it was this big block here at the time. The Swords Masters were engaged with the skeletons, so I did a couple of wounds there. The Sea Guard did a couple of wounds on the Shrieking Horror from long range. And Silas has made a bit of a mistake here. He's got his Barrow King far away from his Necromancer. And so I've dropped the Griffin in base contact with the Necromancer. Silas hasn't issued a duel, so I've just gone ahead and trounced the Necromancer, really. Had he have issued a duel, I mean, of course the commander would have dealt with the Barrow King anyway. Would have just delayed the death of the Necromancer, I think, really. So, yeah, I did a bunch of wounds, 3 wounds on the Necromancer, and then 6 wounds on the unit from the Griffin, between his re-rolling to wounds and his stomps. So, with charges and BSBs and whatever, 9 of the Barrow Guard have crumbled. The skeletons obviously got smashed by the Swords Masters, who overran. They needed an 8 and they got an 8. So they've run into the flank of these ghouls, so this is really good. And then with the Necromancer dying, the Ashes to Ashes rule has kicked in, and things have started to crumble. So the Shrieking Horror has taken a wound from crumbling. Couple of wounds on the ghouls. The Banshees up here have taken a couple of wounds. So it's just starting to crumble slightly for the Vampire Covenant. But of course, there's a gazillion vampiric wizards on the board, so one of them will become the new master. So there you go. That was a slightly better turn 4 for me. Okay, so Silas's movement 4 here then, and he's brought this unit of ghouls with a vampire to threaten my BSB commander on Griffin, and he's dropped his Shrieking Horror here, evidently looking to do a few more wounds on my mage, although he's taken 3 wounds, so he only gets 3 hits with his shriek now. So that's not risky because the mage dragon can't see him, but it's going to be less effective is my hope, really. So there you go. Yeah, that's the end of Silas's movement 4. Okay, so end of Silas's 4 here then. He's got Ancestral Aid off on his Barrow Guard. And his Shrieking Horror has done 2 more wounds to my general. 3 shots, wounding on 3s, saving on 4s. I was expecting to take 1. 2 is a little bit generous, but I mean it's a single die, so it is what it is. Spears took a few wounds, 7 wounds in fact, from Screaming Banshees up here. My BSB died. He only took 3 wounds in spite of Ancestral Aid, but then he went and promptly failed his modified armor save and his ward save. So 3 wounds. I'm thinking 5s and 5s. He'll save 1, maybe 2. Nope, failed all 3 and promptly died. So that was the end of him. But the Swords Masters gave a good pounding to the ghouls in the middle. Taking a wound off the BSB, Silas's vampire in the process, and beating this unit so hard that it needed a double 1 to do a combat reform. So yeah, it got them caught on the flank. So that's a bit of a game changer, really. So that's the end of Silas's 4. So on to my movement 5 then. There have been no charges. I'm trying to get my mage general well out of the way of the Shrieking Horror. Of course, I can't outrun it. We're the same speed as long as I manage to get off a learned spell every turn. But if he does come this way, then he's bringing himself much closer to the Queen's Guard, who are going to make fairly short work of him with their accuracy, really. So if he does choose to come after him, then it's not a very good idea, really. The Reavers have kind of popped themselves over here. Again, I don't want to give away 185 points. I don't see any use for their chaff, so I'm just going to take a couple of long shots at the Shrieking Horror. Might get a wound if I'm lucky. And that's about it, really, for my phase. The commander's gone kind of further away in the corner. Points denial is all this is about. I've not lost any points with him at the moment. I've still got to deal with these Shrieking Horrors here. There's not very much I can do about them, though. They can stand and scream at my spearmen, but to be fair, they've only got 2 rounds of it. And the distance here between this ghoul unit, should it choose to come for the secondary objective, and the spearmen, I think really means they're probably too far away now, because it's going to be Silas's 5. He's going to have to march and charge. It's quite a distance for 2 turns for movement 4 troops, who are reforming as well in turn 5 if they choose to come this way. So I think worst case scenario is that this unit here is contesting this marker. Best case scenario, it's claiming it by itself. So yeah, we'll just wait and see with that one. Anyway, that's the end of my movement 5. Okay, so we're into the end of my turn 5 here then. In the magic phase, I've managed to get both Glory of Gold off on my Swords Masters, which gives them flaming magical attacks and makes the ghouls flammable. So I'm getting re-rolls to wound here. so that will come in handy. And the Queen's Guard at long range have managed to do a wound on the Shrieking Horror, so it's down to 2 now. So then in combat, I managed to do 2 wounds on the BSB, but this vampire does have the Strigoi bloodline, so he's got 1 wound left. I did 10 wounds on the unit, 1 combat by 10 in total. The BSB's there, so 9 more ghouls popped as well as the damage done. Actually in the combat round, so a real sort of smash and pound in the middle here, but they're still there for now. So there you go. Yeah, that was the end of my turn 5. Okay, so Silas's movement 5 here then, and you can see there have been no charges. The Shrieking Horror is kind of coming to hide behind the hill, using the hill as cover from the shooting of my big archery units. And this unit of ghouls has reformed. Reflecting on it, I think it's probably reformed illegally, because I'm fairly sure that some of these models at the front here have moved too far for what a reform allows. But I'm not sure. I don't think either of us saw it at the time, so it's not an issue. And I think also as well that they're currently in 4s and they should be in 5s. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah, so that was the end of Silas's movement 5. In time-honoured fashion, we've forgotten a photograph, but let me just explain to you what's happened. So in Silas's 5, he brought up some skeletons in the magic phase, but the Swords Masters killed the BSB, did a bunch of wounds on the ghouls who popped, and they reformed to charge at the Shrieking Horror. And that was it for Silas's turn 5. But then in my turn 6, I've declared a charge here, and they have rolled a 3. So they failed their charging on 2 inches. So they're not going to be doing anything of any sort now. So that was the end of my charges. Otherwise, I think my Queen's Guard might have moved up a touch for some shooting. No, that's not true. I'm making that up. My mage has popped down here to try and get a silver spike on the banshees here. That's about it really. So that's the end of Silas's turn 5 and my movement 6. End of my turn 6 here then, and I did get silver spike off. I did kill a banshee, but my wizard miscast, rolled 3 5s. What an idiot! And promptly killed himself with his 1 wound remaining. I suppose I should have been a bit more cautious maybe. I only put 4 dice into it, so I should have been fairly safe, but I might have been better just putting 3 into it. Anyway, doesn't matter. Queen's Guard also killed off those skeletons just to make the board more tidy really. So yeah, that was the end of my turn 6. Okay, and we missed another photo here. We missed Silas's movement 6, but I mean, you can see what's happened. Basically his Shrieking Horrors has just come around here to do a bit of screaming, and his ghouls with his vampire have moved to contest the secondary objective. Shrieking Horror killed off a couple of Swords Masters, and that was the end of turn 6. So at the end of the game then, Silas has done 2,465 points of damage. I've done 2,163, so that's 11-9 to him. This secondary objective is contested we've both got a scoring unit in it, and this one is not contested, so I secure the secondary objectives, which turns 11-9 in Silas's favour to 12-8 in my favour. Silas realised after the game that he should have been re-rolling his poisoned attacks on 5s, not 6s, but I don't think it would have made a massive difference because I had him on the flank, so it would have only been a couple of wounds per turn perhaps. So yeah, there you go. I think Silas's army here is really good. As I sat looking at it at the start, as I said, I found myself thinking, where am I going to chip away points here? I think I made mistakes at the start. I think one mistake was giving up this flank and dilly-dallying around with my griffins, which allowed banshees to get into a position which then negated the effectiveness of my griffin commander. I think I was much too eager to get the first turn. deployed my whole army. That allowed Silas to get his Shrieking Horror well away from my archers, which in turn ended up killing my commander on dragon and doing most of the work on my general as well. So yeah, I could have certainly played better, but then I'm sure Silas would say a similar sort of thing with some of the mistakes he made. It was a good game in the end. Gives me a better idea of how I can tackle Vampire Covenant next time. So yeah, there you go. 12-8 in the end. Close fought game. Really good game. A lot of chess and manoeuvring early on. So yeah, all good. Right, thanks everybody. See you next time.